My name is Rose. Am 29-year-old financial compliance analyst had always been the quiet one in her family, the dependable one, the one who showed up early, helped in the kitchen, and never caused trouble. So when her brother called the night before Thanksgiving and awkwardly told her not to come, the silence on the line felt heavier than the words themselves. He said it was Jason's idea. His new brother-in-law thought Mara might make things uncomfortable. No one argued. No one defended her. Mara hung up feeling a strange mixture of hurt and confusion. She had only met Jason twice. Both times he had been polite, but distant, careful with his words, almost guarded. That night, the memory of those brief conversations replayed in her mind. Small details, quick glances, the way he avoided certain questions about his business. By morning, Mara had pushed the family drama aside. Work came first. At exactly 9 o'clock, the glass doors of her office opened abruptly. A man rushed in, pale and visibly shaken. Jason. He stopped mid-step when he saw her sitting at the conference table, a stack of financial reports neatly arranged in front of her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then his eyes slowly moved to the folder bearing the name of his consulting firm. Understanding hit him all at once. Mara closed the file calmly. Her department had been investigating suspicious transfers for weeks. His company's records had already been flagged long before Thanksgiving. Jason had tried to keep her away from the table, but the truth had already found its way to her desk. Rose, a 29-year-old regulatory auditor, had always been the quiet observer in her family, the one who noticed things others ignored. She never argued, never created scenes. She simply listened. That's why the message from her cousin felt strangely sharp. "Maybe it's better if you skip dinner tonight," he said hesitantly. "Ryan thinks you might ruin the vibe." Ryan, her cousin's new husband. Lena stared at her phone long after the call ended. She had only met him twice. Both times he seemed friendly, but something about him felt calculated. Careful smiles, short answers about his business, and an almost nervous reaction when she mentioned where she worked. That night, while the rest of her family gathered around the table, Lena stayed home. But the uneasiness didn't leave her. The next morning, she walked into her office downtown and opened the investigation files her department had been reviewing for weeks. A financial consulting firm had been flagged for irregular transactions and suspicious shell accounts. She had barely finished scanning the latest report when the door opened abruptly. A man rushed in, breath uneven, face tense. Ryan. He stopped the moment he saw her sitting behind the desk. For a second, confusion crossed his face. Then recognition. His eyes slowly dropped to the open folder in front of her. The company logo printed clearly on the first page. His company. Silence filled the room. Lena closed the file calmly. Ryan had been worried she would ruin the mood at dinner. What he never expected was walking straight into the one place where she could ruin everything else. Rose, a 29-year-old financial compliance officer, had always believed family meant loyalty. She was the quiet daughter, the dependable sister, the one who stayed calm when others argued and showed up when no one else did. So when her parents gently suggested she skip the family gathering, the words felt unreal. "It's just easier this way," her mother said carefully. "Daniel feels uncomfortable around you." Daniel, her sister's charming new fiancé. Rose had only met him a few times. Yet each meeting left her with the same uneasy feeling. His smile was polished. His answers about his investment company were always vague. And whenever she mentioned her work in financial oversight, his tone shifted. Brief, guarded. Still, she never expected her family to choose him over her. That night, while laughter filled their dining room without her, Rose sat quietly at home, replaying every conversation she'd had with Daniel. Something wasn't right. The next morning, she returned to the office and opened a file her department had been reviewing for weeks. A growing investigation into suspicious investment movements and hidden accounts. The company name on the report felt strangely familiar. When the office door suddenly opened, Rose looked up. Daniel stood there. At first, his expression carried confidence. Then his eyes landed on the documents spread across her desk. The color drained from his face. He had tried to distance himself from her, to keep her out of the room. But it was already too late. While her family believed she was the problem they needed to avoid, Rose had quietly become the one person holding Daniel's future in her hands. Rose, a 29-year-old senior financial auditor, had always kept a quiet distance during family gatherings. Not out of coldness, simply habit. She listened more than she spoke, watched more than she judged. So when her cousin called the afternoon before the family dinner, his voice uneasy, Rose already sensed something was wrong. "It might be better if you don't come tonight," he said carefully. "Mark thinks things could get awkward." Mark, the confident new husband who had recently married into the family. Rose had only met him twice. Both times he seemed polite, but strangely tense around her. Whenever the conversation shifted toward careers or finance, he would quickly change the subject. His smile would tighten, his eyes would drift away. She didn't question it then. But being quietly pushed out of the dinner left a sharp, lingering confusion. That evening, while the family gathered without her, Rose sat alone, thinking about those small moments, the guarded tone, the hesitation. Something about Mark never felt natural. The next morning, Rose arrived at the government audit office early. A large investigation had been underway for weeks, an extensive review of a consulting firm suspected of manipulating internal accounts. She had just opened the newest financial report when the door swung open. Mark stepped inside, speaking quickly to the receptionist before his eyes landed on Rose. His voice stopped mid-sentence. Recognition spread across his face, then fear. His gaze dropped slowly to the folder in front of her, the one displaying the name of his consulting firm. Rose closed the file calmly. Mark had worked hard to keep her away from the dinner table. He never realized she was already sitting at the table that mattered most. Rose, a 29-year-old financial compliance investigator, had always been the quiet presence at family gatherings. She rarely spoke loudly, rarely argued. Yet somehow, conversations often shifted when she entered the room. Her relatives joked that Rose was too serious, too observant, too analytical. So when the annual family dinner approached, the message she received felt strangely familiar. "Maybe sit this one out," her aunt suggested gently. "Everyone just wants a peaceful evening, no tension." Rose didn't argue. She simply nodded over the phone and ended the call. But the comment stayed with her. The problem at the table. She replayed the last dinner in her mind. The awkward moment when her cousin's husband, Oliver, quickly redirected the conversation after she casually mentioned financial oversight regulations. The way his smile had tightened. At the time, she thought nothing of it. The next morning, Rose arrived early at the city's regulatory office. A new investigation had just landed on her desk, an extensive audit into a rapidly growing consulting firm suspected of hiding irregular transactions. She opened the file slowly. The company name immediately caught her attention. Later that morning, the office doors opened and a man stepped inside, speaking confidently with the front desk. Rose looked up. Oliver. His confidence faded the moment his eyes met hers. Then he noticed the documents spread across her desk. The firm's financial statements. His firm. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Rose closed the file calmly. Her family believed she brought discomfort to their dinner table. What they never realized was this. The real problem had been sitting there all along. Rose, a 29-year-old senior compliance investigator, had always believed family gatherings were simple things. Food, laughter, familiar faces. Nothing complicated, nothing political. But the message she received the night before Thanksgiving changed that. Her brother sounded uneasy on the phone. "Rose, maybe it's better if you skip dinner this year." The words lingered in the silence. When she asked why, he hesitated before finally admitting the truth. "Logan thinks things might feel awkward with you there." Logan, her sister's confident new husband, Rose had met him only twice. Each time he had been polite, but strangely cautious around her. Whenever someone asked about his consulting business, his answers stayed vague. And when Rose casually mentioned her work in financial oversight, his smile had tightened almost instantly. Still, she never imagined her family would quietly choose his comfort over her presence. So that night, while the rest of them gathered around the table, Rose stayed home. The next morning, she arrived early at the federal compliance office. A major investigation had been developing for weeks, a consulting firm suspected of moving money through suspicious internal channels. Rose opened the latest report. Her eyes paused on the company name. Something about it felt familiar. Just then, the office doors opened abruptly. A man walked in quickly, speaking with the receptionist in a tense voice. Rose looked up. Logan. He turned and froze. For a brief moment, confusion crossed his face, then recognition. His eyes dropped slowly to the documents spread across her desk. The financial reports, the flagged transactions, his company's name printed clearly across the file. Silence filled the room. Rose closed the folder calmly. Logan had tried to keep her away from the Thanksgiving table. What he didn't realize was that the real table deciding his future was already sitting right in front of her.